Welcome back to Final Fantasy XIV, where I want to start the quest for Stormblood. Let's see how far we can, the Botanist quest for Stormblood. Let's see how far we can go at this time. Ah, Serenia. Nice to see you again. There was actually something I had been meaning to ask you. Are you familiar with a place named Idyllshire? I'm indeed. A town where man and goblin coexist in harmony, you say? Fascinating. I asked because we have just received a request from someone there for our services, and I had been at a loss as to whether or not to accept it. However, your words have cleared any fragments of doubt that once dwelt in my mind. You may have heard of those articles in the Raven inspired a great number of would-be botanists to take up the hatchet. While I'm grateful for the help, I have had little cause to do any work myself, and I do worry that I may have become rusty as a result. Serenia, would it be trouble you to accompany me on this job? You handled your previous work in the Sea of Clouds with dedication, and I would certainly feel much more assured working in unfamiliar territory were you by my side. What say you? You have my thanks, Serenia. My anxiety has given me way to boundless excitement. It's been quite some time since I had the chance to study a new area's flora. Let us make our way to Idyllshire. The appeal for our aid came from a lady named Edgith. Edgith? Edgith. She bid we visit her at Green Grub Mud Plots, should we be willing to help. So, off to Idyllshire. Well, Matt, I'm assuming you were sent by the Botanist Guild? Wait, you wouldn't happen to be Serenia Shadowstar, would you? By the 12th, it is you! I've read all about how you valiantly defied the Holy See, proving that Gaijotwin's thought to be native to Ishgard actually hail from the Near East. Oh, I feel all tingly just recalling your bravery. You're truly an inspiration to botanists to realm over, Serenia. Oh, how lucky I am that no figure should save fit to bless me with this, the most precious moment of my life. My apologies. This is all just so emotional. I can't believe any of it is truly happening. Perhaps if I were to get your signature, I might have proof that... No, snap out of it, Edgith. Remember what happened the last time you were overly forward? Now, where was I? Ah yes, thanking you for making the journey. I must admit, I've been expecting a party of two. I see. Admittedly a rather orthodox approach, but the botanist technique stands up to close inspection. And it's precisely this fact that has me perplexed. Based on this evidence, I would say the botanist looking after this area has as good an understanding of nature as anyone in our guild. Why would they want for our help? Oh, hello, I didn't see you there. Would you happen to be a friend of Serenia's? Thrilled to meet you. To address your query, our problem here has more to do with quantity than quality. Quantity? Considering Idyllshire's size, I would not imagine you should struggle to meet demands as things currently stand. Ah no, that's not quite what I meant. As you say, there is more than enough here to supply Idyllshire. The real issue is that we wish to branch out and trade with other cities. I suppose it actually concerns both quantity and quality now that I think of it. You see, I created green grub mud plots using the seeds of specially cultivated crops made by Sharlayan botanists. But there's only so much an absolute novice such as myself can achieve. I'm clueless as to how I can better the quality of these crops. I understand your plight. I would be less inclined to refer to the creator of the mud plots as an absolute novice. Do you think you are being somewhat overly humble? No, not at all. I'm self-taught after all. How could I be anything but a novice when I was taught by one? My work could never be compared to that of officially recognized botanists such as yourself. I had been attempting to cultivate a new kind of crop that could be used for trade, but alas, I'm as green as the mudplots themselves. Nothing I try seems to succeed. And that is why you sought our help. Well, I for one am most inclined to grant your aid. What say you, Serenia? Are you of a similar mind? Are you sure? You're not just taking pity on me, are you? Frankly, even if you are, I shall accept it. Thank you both so much. This brings to mind the time we both found ourselves in Corvus, does it not? As I have always said, the botanist's calling is not to control nature, but rather accept it and nurture it so that we may mutually benefit from one another. I must say, it has been some time since anything has been this eager. I have already collected a sample of the soil here and should quite like to take it back to the guild. It is time I set about formulating a plan of action. Knowing I can count on the guild's help is a great comfort. Although I would like to know who was your knowledgeable companion. That was Fufucha. What? The first botanist herself, Fufucha? Good heavens, to think she would ever see fit to even lend an ear to my petty problems. I'm not worthy. My apologies. I have a habit of getting caught up in my own little world sometimes. At any rate, with you two at my side, I cannot see how we could possibly fail. And if we somehow do, it will undoubtedly be entirely my fault. Actually, before you go, would you mind if I ask you something else? Are you the same adventurer that helped the treasure hunters gain access to Saint Mosian's Arboretum? That would be me, yep. I knew it. Sony himself regaled me with stories of your bravery. You have my sincerest thanks. Without your help, we could never have created the mudplots. It's noticeably improved the food quality situation in Idyllshire. Sony really sums up our gratitude best when he refers to you as Saint Serenia. It's just a shame I'm so bloody useless, really. We never stood a chance of cultivating anything worthwhile with just me involved. Well, I suppose that's everything for now. I've decided to wait for word from Fufucha instead of making any rash decisions on my own. Just don't become paralyzed with indecision. Vicar's Council. Yeah. What is... Increase the chance of high quality item next gathering attempt by... Okay. Serenia, I have at long last received word from Fufucha. Just uttering her name gives me such joy. But this is hardly the time or place for me to be longing for exquisite company. That's what every other waking moment is for. No, we need to head to Gridania so that we may actually enjoy her have her brief us on how best to proceed. Although, as this is my first trip to Gridania, I was wondering if it wouldn't be too much trouble to have you show me around. Oh, thank you, Serenia. You're just as courteous as the articles made you sound. I shall see you in Gridania shortly then. That lovely scent in the air, the lush greenery, this truly is a spiritual home of botany. I wonder if there is in some way I could stay here more permanently. There I go, daydreaming again. Honestly, Edgard, let us make our way to Guild. Let us get to the heart of the matter. I suggest that we cultivate a new species of popoto. Popoto? You mean the root vegetable used in soups and pancakes? The very same. While the Giovanni hinterlands enjoy more sunlight than most regions, the soil is far from fertile. The area's mountainous terrain and cold climes can also hardly be considered favorable. Succinctly put, it is not especially hospitable from a botanic viewpoint, and should come as no surprise when any crop planted there should be lacking in quality. However, that is precisely why I propose to put our faith in the sturdy Popoto. But do you not think we would struggle to say regular Popotos? They are so ubiquitous in Eorzea, I can hardly claim who would be interested in one grown in Gravania. That would be true if we planted to simply grow the common Popoto. However, through selective breeding, we shall give birth to one that is unique to Gravania, one that will come to represent the region. Serenia, I would like you to gather some wild Popotos for me. We shall plant these in the mud plots and crossbreed them. By improving upon Popotos that had already been able to grow in harsh conditions, we might be able to produce one of the toughest root vegetables known to man. You have my thanks. I suggest you try searching East End. The area is famed for its potato production once upon a time. The settlement there that used to cultivate the vegetable may be long gone, but I imagine there should still be a few Popotos growing in the area. You certainly stand a much higher chance of finding wild Popotos there than you would aimlessly wandering the realm. And I shall accompany you, Serenia. I may not be able to help you much with harvesting Popotos, but I'm sure I could be of some use. Perhaps I could clean your boots every now and then. I do not see the harm in Edgar tagging along. It may even turn out to be quite the learning experience for her. Eastern is a relatively peaceful area, but I shall let the Order of the Toon Adder know you're coming as a precaution. Then it's settled. I shall go on ahead and scout the area for you. This is in Giabania, right? Oh, Serenia, there you are. I heard from one of the soldiers that this is the area where Popotos used to be grown. Fufucha told me that we should aim to bring back 3 of them. That should be more than enough. Oh, don't worry about lugging them back to Idyllshire. That's my job. Another reason why I'm glad we only need 3. So, gathering spot? Wild Popoto. Aha. Okay. Here you go. They should be somewhere around here. Here, 3 high-quality wild Popotos. You've finished? I wonder what's like to be so skilled. Must be nice. I may be an inadequate botanist, but I would like to believe that I have it in me to haul 3 Popotos as far as the mud plots. I'll make sure to assist Fufucha in preparing them to be replanted as soon as I arrive. Your timing is uncanny. We just finished our preparations not a moment ago. Now begins the hard work. That was incredible. The finesse with which you planted each individual Popoto. Now I know just why Fufucha speaks so highly of you. If I could be even half as good as you, I'd die a happy botanist. And there's no better opportunity for me to improve than now, with first-rate botanists mentoring me. Speaking of which, Fufucha has graciously agreed to help me crossbreed our popoto and plant the resulting seeds. Truly, your loveliness knows no bounds. I look forward to seeing you again once our work is done. In blazing new trails as a botanist, you learn to leave turn free. Serenia, the Popotoes are coming along very nicely. However, we're not quite yet there just yet. Fufucha sent word asking us to visit the guild to discuss crossbreeding in further detail. Do you have the time to accompany me there once again? Fantastic, let us rendezvous in front of the guild as usual. I'm keen to try making my own way there this time. Okay. Off to Gridania. Nice to see you both got my message. The wild popotos you collected from me have taken quite well and work is progressing at a healthy pace. However, while I've succeeded in harnessing the wild specimen's hardiness, I've been unable to incorporate any element that would set our popotos apart from the rest. I believe in you, Fufucha. If anyone is capable of making a success of this, it is you. Thank you for your faith, Edgit. It's most touching. As it happens, I do indeed have an idea. I have heard stories of a popoto species known as Walker's popoto that was once cultivated upon my island of Wilbrand. It is said to be a variety that retains its shape when boiled, making it perfect for stews. Crossbreeding our existing popotos with this variety may well give us that special something we need to make ours stand out. Say no more. Serena and I shall gather all the Walker popotos you need. You catch on quick, Edgit. From what I understand, they used to be grown at the West Roosterstead. Try asking around that to see if anyone cannot point you in the right direction. Asking people questions is one of a few things I'm good at. Let's go, Serenia. I have a good feeling about this. Okay, people. What do you know about Walker's popotos? Ah yes, Walker's popotos. We were always shipping off to the Far East, for Singans go mad for a good Walker's popoto. We haven't grown any for quite some time, but it wouldn't surprise me if someone over there had gotten tired of waiting for us to resume growing them and started cultivating their own. Walker's popotos? That's a name I have not heard in a while. I'm afraid you're far too late. We haven't cultivated those since the calamity. I cannot say I miss them either. They were so susceptible to both disease and the cold, it was always an uphill battle. You won't find any in storage either, in case you were getting your hopes up. We threw the last one out long ago. I've never heard of anyone else volunteering to grow them since. Sorry I can't be of any help. So... Oh, hello there, Serenia. My apologies, I wasn't much good at gathering information after all. I suppose that's one more thing we can add to the list of jobs I can't be trusted with. What's that? There's a chance we may find Walker's popotos in the Far East? Well then, best of luck on your journey to Kogane. I know I really ought to accompany you, but visiting Gridania alone was enough to put my head in a spin. I'm not sure I could handle an entirely different continent. It also wouldn't do for me to leave my darling plants on their own for such a long time. But do not fear, I will see to it that everything is in place for you to plant the popotos upon your triumphant return. Okay, off to Kogane then. So, Walker popotos. I cannot say I've ever sold them in my shop. I do feel I may have heard of them being grown in Isari on the mainland, mind you. It might be worth your while paying the village a visit. That sounds promising. Isari? Walker's Popotoes. A tasty popoto I've never stocked. In fact, I'm completely out of them right now as it happens. I have not seen my supplier for quite some time. I'm fairly certain his name is Hikinami. I lost contact with him when things began to get a little rough on the Ruby Sea. Okay. And of course, Asari is one of these towns that don't have an Everite, so... yeah. Yes, I'm Hikinami. I used to cultivate Walker's Popotoes a little to the north of the village, but that came to an end when my workers declined in numbers and there were not enough hands to help with the harvest. I've long since handed the field back to nature. If you're in luck, there may still be some growing in the wild in that same area. I no longer have any use of them. Feel free to take anything you find. And we get these lush vegetation patches. Went there a moment ago, I believe. Were they? Anyway, Walker's Popotoes. High quality. No. No. Yes. Yes. I believe Walker's Popotoes also are not useful for anything but this quest. Okay, I cut this out here and see you back when I got the last Popoto and we are back in probably Gridania? Svenja, delighted to have you returned safe and sound. Was the spinner on your side? I have 5, well, technically 6, but who counts, right? Walker's Popotoes. So this is a much sought after Walker's Popoto. Ah yes, upon closer inspection is certainly a different hue compared to the common Popoto, but then all that remains is to replant them. That hardly took any time at all, and you pretty much did it all by yourself. I'm truly beginning to wonder if I shouldn't just entrust the mud plots to your much more capable hands, Svenja. Haha, looks like you're enjoying yourself, Edgid. Ah. Sonny, what brings you here? Well, you know, I thought it'd be good for me to check on how things are going from time to time. I'm not good with a headshot, that's for sure, but I'm your boss in name at least. Ah, Svenja, been too long. Hope you like what we did with a treasure. Must say though, I never dreamed you'd turn out to be a first-rate botanist. Makes me wonder what other secrets you're hiding from us. Don't suppose you'd be a first-rate culinarian, would you? Not yet, not yet. Working on it. Speaking of which, how are things coming along? Quite well. Entirely thanks to Svenja here, admittedly, but, well, you know better than most how useless I am. Listen, Edgid, I've got no problem with a bit of humility, but you're well on your way to beating your self-confidence to a bloody pulp. Have you already forgotten just who it was that created this place? But just look at how crooked some of the plants are growing, and the leaves on that tree aren't as green as they should be. Honestly, when you're going to learn to stop being so harsh on yourself? Striving for improvements is one thing, but there's no point comparing yourself to the best botanist in the bleeding realm. Sorry for all this. She might not belong to the Botanist Guild like you, but she's a lot better than she dares give herself credit for. I reckon she'd give guild veterans a good run for their money even. I'd really appreciate it if you'd give her a little praise every now and then. Only when she's deserving it, of course. Here's hoping that picks her spirits up a bit. Yeah, noticed that about her already. Oh, Sonny, he's truly far too kind to me. All I ever wanted as a child was to someday be a botanist. I was ready to spend my every waking moment studying for that one goal. But it wasn't to be. My family died when I was still little, leaving me to fend for myself. It was all I could do to survive, and there was no room for dreams. It was when I was on the verge of giving up that I met Sonny. He gave me my life some semblance of order amongst all the chaos. This allowed me to pick up the fragments of my dream and finally begin studying botany. I never thought that all that studying would actually serve a purpose someday. But that's enough about boring old me. That wasn't boring at all. That was a very interesting story you had. Seeing Sonny again for the first time in a while brought back memories of the past. Memories I'm sure you don't need to hear any more about. As for the work at hand, there's not a whole lot we can do until the crossbreeding is complete. I'm sure you must be tired from your travels to the Far East. By all means, have a rest and stop by again in the near future. I'm almost tempted to take this, but I should really take something else. Fear the Reaper! Anyway, let's see what happens next. Serenia, don't imagine you were expecting good news considering my involvement, but I have once again managed to make a mess of everything. While the first generation of crossbred Popotoes plants successfully sprouted, every single one of them withered frightfully fast. I imagine it's down to some kind of disease, but an amateur such as myself could never hope to identify such a thing. Fufucha has once again summoned us to the guild to discuss this latest development. I shall see you there. Yeah, we heard that the Walker's Popoto was prone to sickness. So it's probably nothing to do with her, but with the plant itself. Welcome back from your journey to the Far East, Serenia. I assume Edkit has already informed you of our worrying predicament? I hypothesize that our first generation of crossbred Popotoes have inherited the Walker's unfortunate vulnerability to both diseases and pests. However, we are yet to pinpoint the exact cause as to why they have wilted so quickly. But how can that be? Was no one in the guild able to determine the cause of our plight? Much as it vexes me, this conundrum has bested all of us. We at the guild are fundamentally nothing more than observers of nature. It's a force all of its own, one that we try our best to understand but cannot hope to harness, nor should we. However, that's not to say all is lost. I fully intend to devote all of the resources available to me in order to ascertain exactly what it is that hinders our progress so. I was also hoping I could count on your help, Serenia. A fresh pair of eyes may be exactly what we need to get to the bottom of this mystery. That's a good idea. Serenia, let's head back to the mud plots and I shall do my best not to get in your way. And Fufucha could not have told us that via link pearl, of course. I told Sonny about our Popoto problem. He said he'd try looking through Charlian records to see if he can find any similar cases. I'm really sorry, Serenia. I'm not quite sure how, but I know this is definitely all my fault. You spy a faint white glint within the soil. Upon closer inspection, you find a chalky stone. What is the matter? Was there something in the soil? Well, I don't know the problem, but it's something, right? Is this some kind of stone? No, that's not right. But surely Fufucha would have noticed if it were so simple. Yes, I must be mistaken. There's no way an amateur such as myself could solve something that stumped the guild. Have some bloody confidence in yourself for once. I think I needed someone to tell me that, and I have to say I'm glad it came from you. Thanks, Serenia. Ascertaining the identity of these chalky stones may well be the key to uncovering what's causing our Popotoes to wither so quickly. However, we will first require a reagent. I know we've already had you do enough work for a lifetime, but would you be able to visit Stickwick's bank pots for me? Hand this order to an alchemist there named Stickwick Gang. Ah, but that's for camp outside. Stickwick Gang pots. Honestly, with a goblin's name, it could actually be a person's name. But okay. And this order to an alchemist there named Goldworks. And she should be able to give you what we need. In the meantime, I will head to the guild and ask Fufucha for her expert opinion regarding these stones. Okay, Goldworks. Shh. Goldworks recognizes mining upland. Does Umbleder not want to trade tongue flaps with cheap Stickwicks? Uplander would have Goldworks crafty make reagent. First, Goldworks needs Uplander to bring seaweed known as nanorizo. Gobby needs this for reagent. Bring Goldworks eggs, clumps of nanorizo, and Gobby will crafty make the reagent. Uplander needs to visit the Far East. Nanorizo can only be found at the bottom of a ruby sea. Okay. Okay. I hope this is the last one. Yeah. Yeah, that's all in this area here. With the Nano Rizo. Anyway, return to Idyllshire. Bring home up. You go, Volks. Find a nanorizo Goldworks has not seen. Gobby will start craft making of reagent right away. Goldworks shall use techniques of both Uplanders and Gobby to make reagent with fastness. Reagent is ready for Edgit. And Edgit, anything new from Fufucha? Hello, Serenia. Did everything go smoothly at the bank pots? Here you go. Fantastic! Now we can finally see if my silly little hypothesis holds true. I can't believe it. Did I do something wrong? How could something that came from my mind ever turn out to be correct? I see you two have already begun your tests. Have you discovered anything new? Did Edgit's guess end up being correct? The way it responded to reagent doesn't leave much room for doubt. It's an eelworm, a pest that's not going to do us any favor. The chalky stone-like object that Serenia found was one of its eggs. So things are just as I assumed, as you assumed they were Edgit. There is, however, one issue I still struggle to comprehend. As parasites, eelworms require a host plant to feed on. The mud plots were only created recently. Just why were there eggs of such vermin lurking in the area? According to the Shalian records, a Salian looked at eelworm eggs enter a state of dormancy within their mother's corpse, allowing them to survive for over a decade. They are more than capable of waiting for as long as is necessary for new grub to show up. The blasted records also claimed they'd all been exterminated. Either the Shalians have a funny definition of a word, or we were unlucky enough to pick an area that was home to an eelworm corpse or two. The eggs inside which hatched and infested the mud plots. Most unfortunate indeed. I must say though, I've been remarkably impressed by the tremendous growth you've shown, Edgit. You've come a long way, both as a person and a botanist. I have no idea what you're talking about. After all, it was Serenia that found the eelworm eggs in the first place, and I still haven't come up with a solution to this pest problem. The records weren't much use regarding that either, although you'd think they must have had some way of ridding themselves of vermin if they were happy considering them exterminated. Well, I suppose it's time that I pulled my weight as well. I shall look into past cases of eelworm infestation and try to formulate a suitable plan of action. I'll keep looking through the Shalian records to see if I can find a solution as well. I suppose I'll give you a hand with that. I may not know much about plants, but my eyes work well enough. My apologies, Serenia, but you will need to be patient for a while as we search for a permanent solution to this conundrum. Edgit will let you know once we are ready to put an end to these pests once and for all. And the other one. Bountiful Harvest 2. Serenia, we've done it. We've found a solution to our pest problem at last. I was just about to make my way to the guild to talk with Fufucha. It's only right that you should join us to see the culmination of everyone's hard work. Ah, Serenia, good to see you made it. I was worried you might miss out on the best part. I see everyone is present and accounted for. Let us begin. Sounds like my cue. Edgit and I managed to find a solution. Two actually, to this eelworm infestation. We can choose to put our faith in either alchemy or what was it called again? Ah yes, companion planting. While alchemy is the more potent of the two, it does have its downsides. For one, it has equally potent side effects, and if any concoction we use happen to scatter further when you plant, it could wreak all manner of havoc on the environment. In which case, the only option realistically available to us is to make use of a blend of the two. I know enough about botanic alchemy to cover that aspect, but companion planting may prove somewhat difficult to utilize. I don't want to make a fool of myself, but could someone explain to me what companion planting is exactly? Simply put, it's a process of planting different crops in close proximity so they may mutually benefit one another. These benefits vary from stimulating the growth of neighboring crops to increasing yields. Oh, and perhaps most interestingly, it can help prevent pest damage. In this case of eelworm infestation, a flowering plant called Ralga's Streak is said to be effective. However, sadly for us, there are none left in St. Mosian's Arboretum. I can say with confidence that we have never had any at the guild either. However, I do have an idea as to where they may be found. The flower owes its name to Ralga, guardian deity of Alamigo. I dare say you stand a good chance in finding it in Giabania, where faith in the destroyer has ever been strong. It stands to reason that the flower would grow in the area. And that's where you come in, Serenia. Do you reckon you'd be up to traveling to Giabania and tracking down this elusive plant on our behalf? Sure. After all we've been through together, I have a mind to accompany Serenia. It's the least I can do. Don't be getting ahead of yourself now, young lady. The fighting may have died down, but there's no guarantee that Giabania is safe enough for civilians to be wandering around searching for flowers. Serenia may be able to look after herself just fine, but you're a different story. You would only get in the way. Say what you want, it's my duty to accompany Serenia. It's the final obstacle standing in our way, and I can't very well leave her to tackle it alone. The final call is Serenia's, but in my mind, such passion ought not be hindered. Okay, I can take care of her. Thank you so much, Serenia. I promise you will have no cause to regret allowing me to accompany you. I'll go on ahead and begin asking people about the flowers' whereabouts. I shall take the precaution of informing the Order of Twin Adder of your visit. The best of luck to you both. Do look after her, Serenia. Edgar's like a little sister I never had. Doesn't bear thinking about what I'd do if something happened to her. Custom Orients. Serenia, I was wondering when you'd get here. An Alamegan Twin Adder officer gave me the most scrupulous morsel of information. He claims to have heard of a plant used to prevent pests being grown in a village named Alagiri. I'm not the only one that thinks that sounds like exactly what we're searching for, am I? He followed this up by saying its surroundings are fraught with danger and it's no place for little lady botanists to be poking around. Honestly, the cheek of a man. All his words have done is hardened my resolve. Come, Serenia. To Alagiri we go. Well, this seems to be the place. Let's try asking around about Walga's streak. You know something? No, that's a name I have not heard in a fair while. Memory is a bit foggy, but I'm pretty sure it's a wildflower found far out in the mountains. Who knows, there could still be a patch of them growing somewhere. Yes, they were brought here from the logs for their pest-preventing qualities. No idea what was done with them after the vermin problem has been solved, mind you. You might have better luck asking someone else. Sorry, Les. Oh, yeah. Frank. Walga's streak. I stocked the stuff for a while, but then the area's pest problem got sorted out and nobody wanted it anymore. The smell wasn't for everyone, you see. Right, so from what we've heard, odds are that Walga's streak grows on a mountain somewhere in the logs, far away from any settlements. I'm going to head back to Idyllshire lest I risk truly getting in your way. I'll make sure to prepare the mud plots for your return. Assuming everything goes swimmingly, all you need to do is plant the flowers and we'll be well on our way to a pest-free future. Well, I suppose you shall actually have to find the flower first, although I don't imagine that will trouble you too much. If you can spot a tiny little eelworm egg, you can surely spot a flower. Let me guess, it's a time limited thing, right? And yes, it is. 4 a.m. and a p.m. So in an hour. Good. Okay, now... there it is. For a land. Okay, I don't need anything high quality or anything, so it's just the gathering chance here. Ah, that was one too much. Okay. Good, then back to Idyllshire. Remember, 4 o'clock is when you can find it. Probably 4 to 6 when, in that time frame. Both in the morning and in the evening. You should be able to up. With this Vulgar streak, it's beautiful. It's stunningly beautiful and yet beautifully stunning. All at the same time. Right, XIV, that's enough excitement for now. Think calming thoughts. Sorry for that, Serenia. Everything's ready. All that remains is to plant the flowers. Oh, who knew that planting flowers could be such tiring work? I have to say, even though we only planted them to rid ourselves of pests, we've done wonders for the mudplot's overall image. Now that the English side was so ice, the smell's not half bad either. Fantastic work, Serenia. It seems I was right to entrust this task to the guild's finest botanist. I honestly do not know if I could have done this without you, Serenia. I can't believe my eyes. It's once a prize after another today. To think that any of the first batch potatoes survived. These little guys are tough, that's for sure. I was absolutely positive we were done for. Thank you for staying strong, little ones. It will be alright from now on. I shall make sure of it. Having seen how far you've come, I too have the utmost confidence in you, XIV. However, allow me to give you a helping hand of sorts. New outfit? but this cup is only given to the most accomplished of botanists. You may say I have grown of late, but I cannot bring myself to believe I am worthy of such an honor. Now, do not be so harsh on yourself. It is true that you have only made but the first step on the long road to becoming a great botanist. However, it is precisely with that in mind that I saw fit to furnish you with this gift. Think of it as a sign of my steadfast belief in your future. A future which you are now more than strong enough to cultivate on your own. While Serenia and I no longer will be actively helping you, we shall certainly be keeping a watchful eye on your progress. I wish you the best of luck, first botanist of Idyllshire. First, I'm going to pretend I didn't hear that to stop myself from fainting. But I promise you all I shall work in tandem with nature to carve Idyllshire's name firmly into botanic history, starting with these Popotoes. Okay, and with that we gain enhanced GP regeneration. And a few materia. Since this was so cut up, I have a bit of a problem following the story here. But I think this was about Edgif's growth as a botanist, right? And that she did. She did grow from I know nothing and I'm a complete amateur to well, I will do my best to make this land prosper. Okay, and the plants are now growing here. Yeah, with that, I finally end this episode. Until next time, when we play more Final Fantasy XIV, I'm Mace, and don't get lost.